Hello everyone, this is IronZaku. A long time ago I did a superhero movie tier list for one of my favourite DC characters, Batman, and for a long time I figured I might as well do the exact same thing but for everyone's favourite web-slinging hero, Spider-Man. So as you can see, I got a lot of current Spider-Man movies since the Sam Raimi movie up until Across the Spiderverse. However, I'm not doing this by myself because I got some special guests with me, so introduce yourselves.
What's up, YouTubers? It's RT Duelist.
Hello there, it's Hawthorne, and I'm sucked into another one of these.
Yeah, we do a lot of these sort of videos on RT's channel again, and I figured for a change, I'll get you two back again for this channel. So how do you feel about the topic at hand and the movies that we're going to be discussing?
I'm really excited because Spider-Man was a huge part of my childhood.
Same here. Spider-Man was one of the first superhero movies I ever watched, because my mum got me into them, and yeah, kind of just all set off from there.
Yes, it's pretty much was identical for me here, especially when I was raised on the early ones, like with the Sam Raimi movies. And of course, as you can see, we got the tiers ready from top to bottom with great to worst. At the top, of course, we have Maximum Spider, of course being in reference to Marvel vs. Capcom. And as the tiers go down, it's movie quotes from some of the movies. And at the bottom, we obviously have the worst of the worst with Puts Dirt in My Eye in reference to Bully Maguire from Spider-Man 3. Because why not?
Yep, why not?
Why not?
So again, the following you're going to be watching is all based on personal opinion, and this is of course going to be for those who have watched a lot of these Spider-Man movies, so do keep that in mind as we go throughout each of the following movies. So without any further ado, let's hop into the rankings, shall we?
Yep.
Do it.
So to start off with some early 2000s nostalgia, with the one that started it all, Spider-Man from 2002, aka from director Sam Raimi.
Oh yeah.
I've got a bit of a story with this one.
Go on.
Alright, when this movie came out, I was roughly about 6 years old. Man, I feel old now.
Don't we all?
And, and yeah, I was into Spider-Man a lot because I was watching like the original animation, not the original, the anime series at the time, the 1995 one, I think. And yeah, a 6-year-old watching an age 12 Spider-Man movie, you can imagine what happened with that.
I'm going to guess on good faith that you were traumatized when the villain of the film Green Goblin used one of his bombs to turn some innocent people into like skeletons.
It was more than that. It was just that how it was dark for like a 6-year-old. How like people were getting burned, killed, sliced up, and all that. My innocent eyes at the time just couldn't take it.
Also, can we just address right out the bat that the Raimi trilogy as a whole is one of the more better casted superhero movies? Like, everyone they got just fit the roles perfectly. Like, for the original here, let's just address the elephant in the room. Well, multiple of them, in fact. Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn, aka Green Goblin. He was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And we can't also forget about J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. He was amazing.
Yeah, he's gonna be playing Jameson till the day he dies, I think.
I mean,
It's
way
like
too
he was
iconic.
it's like he was born for the role.
yeah, absolutely. And of course, Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker with Spider-Man. Like, I think, in my opinion, he was my childhood definitive Spider-Man. In my opinion, like, he's just way too iconic, and I really did like his portrayal. Not to diss everyone else that came afterwards, obviously, they did great.
Yeah.
But, you know, Tobey, is a bit special for me.
Toby's the man.
Wasn't that for a time after the movie came out that this was the definitive Spider-Man, even in the comics?
I think so. What are you referring to, may I ask?
Didn't they at one time give Spider-Man actual organic webs?
Yeah, after the whole Spider Island event.
In the comics? Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that was all because of this movie as well.
Yeah, I think I noticed that as well, that they gave him like organic webs and that when he finally gets bitten by the radioactive spider and he becomes the character that we all know and love. And honestly, I'm not really complaining. Like, it fits the movie pretty well in my book. I mean, it is, of course, an adaptation that makes changes from the source material, and I think it does it pretty well.
The one downside I'll say for this Spider-Man is that he doesn't get to show off his sciencey side as much. That's like a running thing throughout all three movies, that this Peter doesn't really get to show off his scientific brains. Like with the whole make his own web shooters sort of thing. He's just more brawn than muscle. Does anyone else see that?
I did see that. He doesn't like spend too much like in a lab, sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a minor gripe, but I don't think it really ruins the whole movie for me, like, at all. It doesn't ruin it. And I guess the worst you can say is that maybe, yes, since it is an early 2000s movie, you can say it can be pretty cheesy and campy, but I think it's cheesy and campy in the most entertaining way, and I still have a lot of fond memories of watching this when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, there was someone else I almost forgot to mention as well, but again, we'll address the other cast as the movies go on. How do we feel about MJ in this movie and the later films as well?
MJ in these movies, I think, was perfectly cast by Kirsten Dunst.
Definitely portrayed extremely well.
Yes.
Of course, I think the main heroine of the story gets better. We get better ones further out, but
Yes, we do get
that when it happens.
Yeah, we do get much better ones, but you know, she wasn't too terrible at the time.
Yeah.
So, how do we feel about placing the original Spider-Man, in my opinion, not quite in Maximum Spider, but great power, great responsibility?
I'd say, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because this was the movie that spawned the famous quote from Uncle Ben before, you know, getting murked.
Yeah. And to go off that, the amazing casting of Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben.
Oh, he was amazing. Perfectly cast.
Rosemary Parks as May Parker.
Yeah, knocked it out the park. Again, this is what I kind of loved about the Raimi movies, is that they're just perfectly well cast across the board. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'd say despite its early 2000s cheese, it's still highly entertaining. So I would say put it again in great power, great responsibility. Not quite Maximum Spider, it's not my absolute favourite, but I still have a lot of nostalgia that I do revisit every now and then. Next up is probably one of the most iconic superhero sequels of all time that I think we have a lot to say, Spider-Man 2.
Oh.
I mean, it's Spider-Man 2. I think we know where it's going to go, but at least we could probably try to talk about it. And when I say Spider-Man 2, I obviously mean like the Raimi film, as you can see right here. Not to be confused with like Insomniac's Spider-Man 2, you know how that game came out a few months ago and has a similar title.
Which I haven't played it, but still, great game.
I'm streaming it and I have a good time.
Absolutely. So, how do we feel about another well-casted and well-portrayed villain, Doc Ock? Because he was pretty awesome in this movie.
There's a reason why this Doc Ock comes back later in a future installment, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
I think we know which one we're discussing, but we'll bide our time.
Like he has said, Alfred Molina was just perfectly cast. Because his downfall from this lovable scientist to this mad scientist just trying to kill everyone is so believable.
And also, I just remembered as well, it did provide one of the most iconic moments in the Spider-Man movie that was pretty hyped. I mean, can we discuss the train scene? Where he's trying to save everyone and how he's at the front, like he's shooting multiple webs to slow the train down, and that it was pretty intense and it was just brilliantly well executed in my book. Brilliantly well executed.
It's a beautiful scene, and it shows off the best of humanity with the whole carrying Spider-Man into the train thing.
Even when he's unmasked as well, I don't think either of them grasped for his real identity. Not a single one. I mean, granted, you could argue that it might be unrealistic because in a normal situation like that, someone could have grasped, but in this movie, I could buy that nobody wanted to grasp because they owed their lives to him for saving them.
Oh, I definitely know. There's probably like one asshole on the train that was like, "Let me in! I want to see his face so I can make millions." I honestly bet there is someone on a train. We don't see that person, but I bet there's probably someone on that.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine that person also reporting that to J. Jonah Jameson as well? That would be funny.
Yeah. Hey JJ, I saw Spider-Man's face. He's about this tall. He's got this kind of haircut. He looks like your ugly photographer friend. Wait a minute.
That's him.
Yeah, that is him.
Get him.
Absolutely.
We also talked about the fact that this spawned one of the greatest villain quotes that Marvel has ever had.
Ooh, I think I know what you're gonna say.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
Oh god, isn't that a meme now?
Pretty much,
Yeah.
but it's still very, very good.
Such a good line.
Yes, it's a very good line. It's highly entertaining. It's far better than the first movie. I think this might be an early contender that is pretty much gonna go in Maximum Spider, if I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Like, again, I know.
Disagree with that.
I mean, I can understand some arguments of some people watching that might want it to be a bit lower because there are other Spider-Man movies that you could argue might be possibly better. I don't know, but I just can't help myself. I still think that this is one of the most definitive Spider-Man movies ever made. There's a reason why people still look back upon it even to this very day.
It may not be my favorite, but I do hold it in high regards.
Absolutely. Now, talk about something that we may be divided on. Spider-Man 3.
Okay, I'm gonna say this now. Spider-Man 3. It's my favorite out of the trilogy just because of how fucking crazy it is.
I'm going to guess, is it because of the Bully Maguire memes that would come out years later?
Oh yeah. And the dance scene.
Oh my god, the dance scene.
What? You like the dance scene?
Yeah, I think it actually gives Bully Maguire a perfect moment to show off how cocky he is.
Well, under the influences of the symbiote.
Yeah.
Wait, just to clarify, which one? The one where he's dancing in front of the shop or the one where he's showboating to MJ?
Both.
Both is good, I guess.
Yeah, both. Both is good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you could definitely argue, criticize that while Peter is under the symbiote influences, it does make him a lot more unlikable at times. I get it, but again, this is the symbiote we're talking about. It's meant to, like, make your worst, like, not worst insecurities, like, what's the word?
It's meant to make the worst even worse.
Yeah, pretty much. The worst human being even worse. Like, it makes everything that's flawed about you and exaggerates it to, like, a shit ton.
I say like the worst part of this movie is probably when the executives got involved and tried to cram too much into the ending.
And of course the villains as well. They crammed in so much.
Yeah.
Like, if I recalled correctly, Sam Raimi didn't want to include Venom in this movie, but because of studio interference, he had to give in and do it in the end. Which I think they probably should have saved Venom for another movie at the time and focused on the one that we got, because I think Sandman is actually really good. Like, I thought his character was pretty underrated in this movie, especially of how his story, like, ends where he, like, tells Peter about how his daughter was dying and he didn't want all this to happen.
Yeah, that was a good scene, especially with the sunset in the background. It just fits so well. But I have to think, like, I actually think the Sandman part of the movie kind of works well with Venom's suit Spider-Man, because it amps up the emotions, and then have it end with Spider-Man rejecting the Venom symbiote and then taking on Sandman as he is, and then with the talk at the end, now that Peter's see things much more clearer without the Venom influence, and then make the fourth movie about Venom, I think that would have worked a lot more better.
I can see where you're coming from. However, I do recall, like, seeing, I guess, some early drafts of what Spider-Man 4 was probably going to be, but instead of Venom, they were going to use Vulture, if I recall.
Oh.
Yeah, the original concept for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4 was that he was gonna go with the Vulture.
Way before Homecoming. Imagine that.
Interesting.
But I can more than understand why you would say that. However, the other two villains as well outside of Sandman, New Goblin, if I recall, of course, played by James Franco, who was also in the last two films. How do you feel about him?
As Harry Osborn, love it.
His descent into madness was done really well, starting with the first movie with the death of his father, then the second movie went in revenge on Spider-Man, only to get a vision from his dad to become the New Goblin, and then Spider-Man 3 where it all culminates together and he learns the truth and then decides to make amends with Peter to fight alongside him.
Especially during the finale, after when, of course, he gets rid of the symbiote, and of course, how do we feel about Venom in this movie? Because I have some interesting thoughts, to put it lightly.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. Well, yes, I do like Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
I think Topher Grace did a good job portraying pre-Venom Eddie Brock.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was better before Venom was actually there. The symbiote was better as a Spider-Man suit, and Eddie was better as just Eddie, rather than those two fused together.
I personally thought he was one of the more weaker elements of the film. Like, again, you can tell that Sony wanted to include another Spider-Man villain that's iconic just for the sake of it, and it just overstuffs this movie quite a bit. Like, again, as we mentioned, he probably would have been better off saved for another movie, but unfortunately, it does kind of drag it down a bit for me because of how overstuffed you just feel the movie is.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Now, I will say this, right? Despite it being overstuffed and it has some objective faults, Spider-Man 3, I think, is not as bad as people make it out to be. It's not the worst movie ever made. It has its good qualities. Again, I did like the Sandman story. It has its good sequences, and especially the finale, which I thought was a really good moment of Sandman, like, trying to, in a way, redeem himself, or Peter Parker learning to forgive him because of the death of his Uncle Ben. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good moral of a story sort of thing. It's just this movie though.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
again,
a bit-
Yeah. I think it's just the movie that lets it down.
it
yeah,
could have just been better.
yeah.
It could have just been stretched out. Let the movie be a little longer to fill in a bit more details, or make it a two-parter. This movie will then be like 5 times better, probably.
Yeah, it would have been a bit more consistent and more focused, but again, you could tell that it was just way too overstuffed. But it's not, again, the worst thing ever, and I do have a bit of a soft spot for it.
Yeah.
So I think it might be okay if we put it in the middle tier for a bit of a slop. You know, not terrible. It can have some entertaining moments, especially, you know, with memes for Bully Maguire and that. And I do like some aspects of the story, again, with Sandman, because I do think he was the best part of it all. I just wished it was executed better in the end.
Yeah, because I think Thomas Hayden Church did a great job as Flint Marko.
Oh, definitely.
Next up, we have Andrew Garfield's first run, The Amazing Spider-Man.
I was actually quite impressed that you did the introduction for me for that one, because this was the one that Sony hit the reset button after the less than critical reception for Spider-Man 3, and I am kind of squarely in the middle with it. I think it's average. I just think it's passable. It's okay in my book. Just right out the bat. How do you two feel?
It does its job, I think. What were you gonna say, Artie?
I think a lot of hype for this Spider-Man came from the fact that it came out around the same time as Avengers Assemble, one of Marvel's biggest movies.
Yeah, at the time, yeah, definitely during Phase 1.
But I do really like this Spider-Man. It brings in a lot more of the science aspect that I wanted in the first one, which was really good, especially with the scene where he creates his own web shooters and making his own suit, even using sunglasses for the lenses.
Yeah, whereas like we get that slow progression into Spider-Man.
And of course, we got a bit more of the humor.
Which I thought was pretty entertaining when it absolutely works. And I think Andrew Garfield again does do a pretty good job doing his own portrayal of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, even if it does repeat the whole origin story again with Uncle Ben. We all know what happens next. However, I will say this, Uncle Ben in this movie was played well by Martin Sheen. I mean, he was a good actor.
Yeah, I do like Martin Sheen as Uncle Ben, but again, for me, it's gotta be Cliff Robertson as Uncle Ben.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't replace the original. I mean, Martin Sheen, again, it was pretty good overall, but I think the original is just timeless. I mean, not dissing Martin Sheen again, good actor and all. However, there's another thing that I just wasn't a fan about this, and the sequel as well, and it's the whole plot line about Peter's parents, and I just didn't care about it, to be honest.
No, but Peter's parents never really made that much of an important role in any Spider-Man series, movie, TV series, or otherwise. And when they do, it's always like a one-off story, which I think is why the Amazing Spider-Man movies sort of failed in the first place, because they put a heavy focus on his parents when the story doesn't really need a heavy focus on the parents.
No, it doesn't.
I will say this, Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy was well casted, and I thought that she was, in my opinion, in this movie, better than MJ in the Raimi films.
I actually think that as well. I really liked Gwen Stacy. It was a complete... With just introducing Gwen Stacy instead of MJ, it changes the story quite a bit, and I think for the better in some ways. Because let's be honest here, which did you prefer, MJ from the first 3 Spider-Man movies or the Amazing Spider-Man Gwen Stacy? Which girls would you two prefer?
Probably Gwen Stacy, because she plays a more active role in both movies.
Exactly.
Yeah, same here. I mean, granted, you could argue she does kind of stumble a bit in Amazing Spider-Man 2, but we'll get to that movie in quite a bit.
Oh, yes.
And also, I just remembered as well, I wasn't really much of a fan of the Lizard in this movie, and his CG design, especially with the goddamn face, just looked so uncanny valley to me.
Oh, God, yeah.
It looks creepy to me. It doesn't look right.
That lizard needs a makeover.
That lizard needs to be exorcised by a priest, because my god, it's horrifying. But there's one thing. I will say this quickly. If there's one thing I will give him credit for, he did give us a good action sequence with Stan Lee cameoing in the library.
Oh yeah, with some classic music in the background. That was really cool.
Yeah, I will give him props for that.
There's one thing about this movie that honestly does bug me quite a bit, and honestly no one's really gave me an answer to what's going on, and that's the ending of this movie. The whole Spider-Man, Gwen's dad, and he just chose to push Gwen away for her own safety, and then to go, and then apparently it's portrayed as going back on his promise to keep Gwen in his life, and it's what's going on?
What are you doing?
What are you doing, mate? You promised the dad, and now it's... Oh, God.
And afterwards, he now appears as some apparition ghost in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 that just pops up to Peter, be like, "Stay away from Gwen," or something like that.
Yeah, like it's haunting him that he's gone back on his word. I guess it's been confirmed the Force exists in this universe.
In some way, I guess. Anyway, all that aside, I think, in my opinion, like I mentioned, Amazing Spider-Man was just okay, It's passable enough. It has its good qualities. Again, I did like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I did like Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. It has some good going for it, but I do have some issues with it. So, how do you two feel if I put it in the same tier as Spider-Man 3 for a bit of a slob?
I'm fine with it.
Would you have it higher or lower by any chance?
I personally would have it a little higher because there's a couple scenes in it that I really like. The funniest scene I like is the one where he's attacking the mugger and he goes, "Oh no, tiny knives, my one weakness," and then webs his hand.
I will say that was pretty good. That was entertaining when it shows Spider-Man humor at its best, I think, when he messes with the criminals and vice versa.
Yeah, that seems like actual Spider-Man.
Yeah, it does nail the character pretty well. Now, talk about something that might be going downhill now. We have the Amazing Spider-Man 2, aka Studio Interference, the movie again since Spider-Man 3.
I gotta say, I've got a bit of a story with this movie, but it involves its trailer. And this is honestly like the most stupidest thing that's probably ever happened to me involving a trailer.
Oh, go on.
This happened in college, right? I was with a group of friends and we were all excited for the new Spider-Man movie, and we were like, for one of our classes, let's dissect this trailer and try and find any missing details or try and figure out what's going on. So we stood there with the trailer projected onto the board, and we were like going through the trailer, sometimes slowing it down and going through it frame by frame, and we're like, this is happening, okay, ooh, look over there. And honestly, we spent like an hour dissecting this 2-minute trailer, and we made our own story for what's going to happen in this movie.
I mean, out of all the movie trailers in the world, analyzing the trailer for Amazing Spider-Man 2 for some reason just kind of sounds a bit comical to me, because you're like over-analyzing it and that, which I don't know why, it just makes me laugh. Oh, God.
The coolest thing we did in college was to watch Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, that movie is so good. But again, Pan's Labyrinth aside now, can I say something about the trailer as well that annoyed me and everyone else when we found out?
Oh, the use of Rhino.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
just a very small Paul Giamatti in a mechanical rhino suit.
Yeah. Again, I get why, adaptations have to make changes, and that obviously from the source material, but it's not the thing that annoys me about this, right? The thing that annoys me about Rhino in the trailer is that they spoiled the ending to this movie in the trailer!
Well, besides the final seconds.
Yeah, they used the final seconds of Spider-Man at the end of this film going toe-to-toe with Rhino, and it ends there. It spoiled the ending. Like, why?
Be too salty about it if they're like added in after credit scenes that like shows, I don't know, bits and pieces of the Rhino fight, or maybe like the aftermath, that it just happened while the credits were rolling.
I mean, it would have been better if it actually showed the entirety of the fight, and then maybe afterwards it would end a bit, maybe. But the way they chose to edit this movie, and again, include that last shot in the trailer, just spoiled it. And we're like, what? I mean, again, they butchered Rhino in this. I think they also, personally, they kind of ruined Electro as well.
Oh.
I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Jamie Foxx, great actor. If you've seen a lot of his movies in other worlds, he is good. But my God, was he given the short end of the straw here?
He was.
Though, to be fair, they did... to be fair, they did go on to use Blue Electro in Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, but here's my big take when it comes to Electro, right, and his character. I get what they were going to do early on with him, before he turns into Electro. Like, he was a shy person who's a massive fan of Spider-Man. I mean, we all see how many, images of Spider-Man that he has, I think, on his wall in one particular moment.
Didn't he only turn crazy Spider-Man obsessed after he got saved, thinking that Spider-Man was his BFF out of nowhere?
Yeah, it was insanely rushed. And then when he actually turns into Electro as well, when he falls into The tank with the eels.
Eel.
Yeah, the tank with the electric eels and that. Something happens during that transformation that made it unintentional comedy for me, where getting zapped alive with the eels just fixes the gap in his teeth that you see, and it was like, what? What? And his
Who needs dentistry? We have eels.
got a gap in your tooth? Get some electric eel bites. It'll totally fix it. Also, do not actually try this. We are being sarcastic and funny with that. Do not actually do it.
And on that note, it's not too shocking.
Oh god. And his descent into being Electro that we know, and that again is just so rushed and so poorly executed. When of course Spider-Man is trying to clarify to him when he's at Times Square, and later on he's just like, "You lied to me," when some event happens, and again the fight just begins. And my dogs are barking again.
They've got an opinion on the Amazing Spider-Man 2. They think it's a masterpiece. How dare we insult it?
Yeah, they're probably thinking that Amazing Spider-Man 2 is going in Maximum Spider. Oh god. Anyway,
So, can we? I'm about to say the only other thing that got a chuckle out of me, and I don't know why it gets that much of a chuckle out of me, the itsy bitsy spider part.
Oh, where he's jumping between the power
Pylons
electrical
and that.
pylons.
and I'm just like,
And
yo,
it's the spider.
yeah, and I'm just like, yeah, movie, you're being very subtle with what you're doing. Wow. And then the last one as well. Oh, sorry.
But there's one thing that a lot of people say about this movie, which I have to agree, and that's the Green Goblin just comes out of nowhere.
The most you do kind of see early on in the film is that he does try to get Spider-Man to give his blood to him for a cure, but since he doesn't, he just has an over-the-top breakdown, just smashing stuff, going "I hate Spider-Man" in the most ridiculously cliched fashion possible. And I'm just like, oh my god.
Hey, don't get me wrong, Daniel Day-Han, I love him. He's a great actor. I think he was just given the short end of the straw.
Just like with Jamie Foxx. And also, am I alone in saying that I just hate his Green Goblin design?
Oh yeah, because it's just Daniel Day-Han in some weird prosthetics and a power suit.
Yeah,
Some
again,
green makeup slapped on them.
it's like they just slapped all that makeup on. It's like, there's your new Green Goblin. Here you go, everybody. Oh. And also, I just remembered as well, spoilers for the ending, that one scene that we're going to discuss next, where
Web.
where Gwen is falling to her death in the clock tower, and Peter is falling down in slow motion trying to save her, and it had to get comically ruined with the web that he shoots out forming a hand reaching out towards her, and I was like, are you serious, movie?
Just why? We get it. You're trying to be emotional.
Look,
But no!
you had something competent going for you. The way I would have done it is do the exact same thing, but cut out the music and the sounds. Let us absorb the gravity of the situation and then end it with a loud sound of Gwen snapping her neck at the end. That's all you needed to do, in my opinion. That's all you needed to do. Not include a web hand coming out of the web shooter, symbolizing that I'm reaching out towards you.
Sometimes no music is the best option. Just the sound of the gears, banging, echoing is enough. And having it end with a good fashion bang is more than enough.
Yes. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I mean, I'll give it this, right? When Andrew Garfield is acting his heart out with, Gwen dying and that, crying and begging for Gwen not to die and wake up and all that, he does do his job well. You gotta admit, he does do his job well. It's just a shame, though, that it is kind of ruined because of what happened before, in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, again, like with Spider-Man 3, you could just smell that this movie was interfered by the studios again. And what makes it even worse, I think, is that they try, at the near end, so hard, so hard, to set up a Sinister Six movie that never happened.
Yeah.
For possibly good reasons.
Yeah, like, Sony, I know you're not the smartest company in the world, but my god, did you not learn anything from Spider-Man 3?
Clearly not.
Yep, apparently not.
I mean, I'll say this right. Amazing Spider-Man 2, it has some spark here and there. It has some moments that I do kind of appreciate. But the cracks in this movie are way too hard to ignore, and it just brings the whole package down even worse at times. Like, do I think it deserves to be, for example, do I think it's like in puts dirt in my eye bad? No. So I think I'm going to just put it in you serious.
Yeah. I had more fun analysing the trailer and making my own The Amazing Spider-Man 2 storyline than this. We had some good moments, but that's all they are. Moments.
Again, if you are that curious to see this, maybe because of the fact that people are slowly, in a way, reappreciating them because of, No Way Home, then maybe at most stream it or give it a rental, maybe at most, and that's about it, I think. Again, that's just my personal take.
As for the next movie, it's coming home. It's coming home.
Oh, no.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Did you had to do that, Reese?
I had to.
Yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming, the debut of Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU. Okay, technically not the first, because technically his debut was in Captain America's Civil War, but the reason why I'm not including that is because of the fact that I wanted to mainly focus on Spider-Man-led movies. So, yeah. Hopefully that makes sense.
Wait, what wasn't his first introduction in Iron Man 2 as the little kid?
Oh my god, yes! I think they said that he was there since Iron Man 2 in some interviews later. Holy crap! Okay, technically then, yes, we can throw Iron Man 2 in there as well. I don't know why I almost said Spider-Man 2 then.
We want to remember a good movie.
Which we are going to right now then. Right now we're going to remember a good one with Homecoming. And I think Tom Holland just plays a perfect Peter Parker as well. I did really appreciate his take on the character.
They did an amazing job with this movie. The one thing I'm happy that they chose to do is not do the Uncle Ben storyline again. We've had it twice now. We don't need it for a third time. And that makes the movie so much more better because this is a bit more experienced Peter, at least a year.
Of being Spider-Man and during and after the events of Captain America's Civil War. And I did appreciate this movie a lot because, again, in comparison to before and after with what we got with the Spider-Man movies, this is a much more, smaller scale adventure / movie than, the whole typical multiverse shenanigans that we would get much later. And I did appreciate it for it.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it complete sense for a Spider-Man story. Spider-Man does not need to take on world-ending threats. This one he just takes on the Vulture, which happened because Iron Man created damage control, which took over their jobs, and they just wanted to make a decent pay and make Iron Man pay for taking away their jobs. Spider-Man taking on that kind of bad guy makes complete sense for Spider-Man.
And also, in regards to Vulture, he also agreed that Michael Keaton was well casted in the role. He was excellent, in my opinion. He was good.
Yeah, because he went from the Batman to the Birdman.
He literally. I mean,
I think this also did the multiple villains thing well.
Yeah, because we had Shocker. We had these two, the Prowler.
Oh yeah, I think the Prowler in this one was played by Donald Glover, the actor. Well, he wasn't in the costume because he did say at one point he was trying to meet up with his cousin, which I think they teased. Was it with Miles Morales? Wait, not his cousin.
Yeah. He mentions in a scene where he says he's got a nephew that lives in Harlem.
Oh, nephew, yeah, absolutely. I just got that mixed up a bit, but thank you. Again, we do see him in the Prowler costume at a much later time, though, in one of the animated movies, but again, we'll get to that in time.
And also, there's a fourth villain.
Oh, yes.
I didn't know that.
You know the person who makes all of Vulture's equipment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another Spider-Man villain called the Tinkerer.
Wow.
He
Yeah.
never gets credited as the Tinkerer.
Oh, really?
He only ever gets credited as Phineas Mason.
All right. Yes.
So that's probably a nice little Easter egg for big time fans.
Yeah. I had no idea about that. Absolutely no idea. So yeah, another thing I also liked as well is the whole mentor and apprentice dynamic as well between Iron Man and, of course, Peter Parker, which I thought was well executed enough.
I think it got executed extremely well because of the Civil War movie. The fact that it introduces Tony as sort of like a mentor to Spider-Man because he brought Spider-Man over to be part of the battle makes a lot of sense to why Peter thinks he can do a lot more since he stood side by side with the Avengers.
Yeah, in some form. I mean, technically it was like Captain America and, Team Iron Man at war with each other, but yeah, I understand that. I understand.
Yeah.
So, Homecoming, I think, is a pretty solid movie overall. Like, I love it quite a bit. Maybe not enough for it to be maximum Spider. It could have been. I think it's because of the fact that another movie that deserves it, No Way Home, but I know, but I just had to name drop that because it was a bit more obvious for which one is the better one in the Holland saga. So I think we could be happy putting it in Great Power, Great Responsibility.
Yeah.
Because it is still a pretty solid movie around. You could have some gripes with it. It's not the definitive Spider-Man movie, but it is still pretty great. Like, really great.
Yeah.
Okay, I just noticed. Next up is when Sony thought to themselves, hey, let's try making our own Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man by doing a movie on one of his villains with Venom.
I've got to say, I quite like Venom.
Yeah, I really do like the Venom movie.
I have some issues with it. It's not perfect, but it is dumb fun, I will say. If you're going into this movie expecting it to be like on par with the better Spider-Man movies, don't even bother, because it'll have some stuff that will annoy you in a way. But if you're going in, switching your brain off, and just wanting a dumb fun Venom movie with good chemistry between Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and the symbiote, who he also voices as well with Venom, is pretty good.
I'll admit, if you wanted a Venom to be more like the comics, which is evil and would kill you in a heartbeat, then this should have been a higher rated movie. But as a what we call in UK H12 movie,
I think in the UK it's rated 15, but in America it got the typical PG-13 rating. However, I think this movie would have shined a bit better if it was in a way rated R. I mean, come on, think about it. Deadpool came out a few years back in 2016, and I think Logan as well, a year after in 2017, if I recall. I'll probably pop both movies on screen so that you'll see the release dates, and both of them can prove that R-rated comic book movies can do really good. I think Sony missed an opportunity here, or maybe they did it on purpose because they did not want to limit the audience in a way, but it just kind of annoys me.
So here's a fact I heard. The reason he was able to portray Eddie reacting so well to the Venom stuff was because he recorded all his lines as Venom first and then had them played back to him in an earpiece he had so he could react to them in real time.
Yeah, it actually kind of makes sense.
Actually, really good way to do it.
Yeah, works well for, again, the dynamic of Eddie Brock and Venom in this movie, because I thought they do have some good jokes in that here and there. However, the rest of the movie surrounding them, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say one of the weakest parts about this movie would probably then be the lighting, especially during all the nighttime scenes, which is a majority of the movie.
Yeah, majority of the movie, and when the action does get thrown down at times, you can't even see what the hell is happening.
I think the worst offender when it comes to the lighting is that kiss scene. I'm pretty sure we all know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, the Venom sequence.
Yeah, the She-Venom sequence. Yeah, I'm slowly remembering that now. God.
You could barely see what's going on unless you had a TV where you can increase the brightness so you can make out at least the outlines. It's really stupid.
Yeah, speaking of poorly lit scenes in that as well, nothing that was forgettable was the villain. I mean, I struggle to remember his name, but all I remember is his quote, like, "Have a nice life," and I'm just like, you are the definition of generic. I mean, no offense to the actor, but the villain is just so generic.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the symbiote that he attaches himself later is Riot, obviously, but other than that, that's as far as I know. That's as far as it gets.
At least the ending was good with the iconic line, "We are Venom."
And then, and then it has to get followed up with the end credits song, "Venom," also performed by the rapper Eminem. I'm struggling to pronounce his name. Eminem, yes. I gotta be honest, I kinda dislike the song, if I'm gonna be honest. I mean, some Eminem songs, I could do, but this one, I mean, how do you two feel?
I feel, because it was the start of a new set of movies for Sony, it did a good job of what it was trying to do.
Yeah, I guess I'll probably try and give it credit, because other movies that I can think of where, in a way, they are bad, but at least you could have some dumb fun at most, is the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies, if any of you's ever seen them.
Oh, I love the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider movies.
Oh, God. It's similar to that in a way that they're not great, they're not art, they have lots of issues, but if you go in, turn your brain off, and you can have some entertainment with them. Similar here for Venom, so I'm struggling now with what tier to put it in, because you can have some fun with it in some regards, but it does have quite a few issues.
Yeah, why not put in the middle with a bit of a slob? Like a 50-50 sort of situation. Because, like you said, if you switch off your brain, it is a fun movie.
Yeah.
I think like, one of the things when Venom came out that I was really nervous about was the whole, how can you do Venom without Spider-Man thing? And they did a really good job with that. Not having to do Venom with Spider-Man.
I can kind of see why. Again, in that regard, it can be a bit of a slob if you switch your brain off and have fun. But again, on the other hand, it could also be a bit lower in You Serious, because again, it does have some moments of wasted potential, and I think it could have been better if it was rated R. But I'm going to be nice, believe it or not. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to put it in a bit of a slob for now.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're a horror fanatic. You'll probably say this movie deserves to be in a bit of a slob if the final scene we saw the head that Venom ate roll on the floor, wouldn't you?
It could have been improved in some areas, but again, I'm going to be very nice and just give it a okayish pass if you approach this movie under the right lenses. But that's as far as it gets, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, now...
Oh boy!
Oh, yes, finally something positive to talk about. And the best part of Venom, because it was shown at the end of that movie in an end credit scene that was previewing what was to come for the next film. Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse.
Okay, dare I make a very presumptuous assessment of all of our opinions of this movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Maximum Spider.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I mean, this one took me by surprise as well. I absolutely adore this. It's going in Maximum Spider right out the bat. The fact that this came out after when Sony Animation, did one of the worst animated movies in a while with the Emoji Movie is quite shocking, Quite shocking that they somehow pulled off such an excellent animated Spider-Man movie. It has its own flair, its own style, its own bar, even, that I just absolutely adore about this movie. Its animation style has influenced some later films that came out in later years. The only examples I can think of, if you've seen any of them, where it does have that Into the Spider-Verse influence in their animation, is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and recently with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
One thing I really am happy about when it comes to this movie is that, unlike all the other Spider-Man movies, this one focuses on Miles Morales, which up until this, the only other times we saw Miles was possibly in the comics. I can't remember if he made his debut in Ultimate Spider-Man at the time, but that was quite a big thing when it came to this movie, that it was focusing on Miles Morales instead of Peter. Yes, we do get Peter Parker in this movie, but it's more focusing on Miles, which is...
Yeah, Miles Morales actually was a really great protagonist. I mean, like with Peter Parker, yes, Miles goes through his own personal trials, errors, and tragedies, including losing a loved one as well, like with Peter losing Uncle Ben, or Spider-Ghost with Gwen Stacy returning, being the one that loses Peter Parker in her own universe and vice versa. Like, it is quite a trend.
And there's another character, since you brought up, that's another character we finally get to see in animation form for the first time, Ghost Spider-Gwen. Because up until that point, it was only in the comics, never appeared in other forms of media, which was another big leap.
Yeah, Gwen in this movie, aka Ghost Spider, she was really great as well. Absolutely great, with some solid highlights. However, we have to also bring in the other ones that are pulled into this movie as well because of some multiverse shenanigans. Spider-Man Noir, played, of course, by Nicolas Cage.
Yes, I loved the casting, and I loved the fact that he was obsessed with all things a Rubik's Cube.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of a shame that he didn't return for the sequel. Kind of a downer, but, you know, it is what it is. And, of course, Penny Parker as well, who is a lot more anime-influenced as well. I mean, I thought she was pretty entertaining.
I think she's more of an Easter egg to the Japanese Spider-Man, the Tokusatsu Spider-Man. Which
she does have her own comics.
Like, I can see the similarities, like, you know, having her own robot/mech. Like, I do see that with, again, the Tokusatsu Spider-Man, which, again, was very obscure back then, but we all know it now for certain moments and memes from it. Like, if I recall, didn't Tokusatsu Spider-Man basically have his own, like, I don't know, Power Rangers, like, Megazord at some point?
Yeah. Sentient robot. I think it's sentient. And it's because of that, that's what got Super Sentai to start using mechs. It was all thanks to Tokusatsu Spider-Man.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can blame Spider-Man for having the Power Rangers get Megazords.
Yeah, absolutely. Other aspects as well that I do love about the movie as well. The Prowler, he was a solid highlight. Absolutely great.
Oh, absolute terrifying.
Especially with his main theme song as well. It is really good.
And that big reveal of who he was. That honestly made me put a sinking feeling in my stomach when I first saw that.
Yeah.
I found out so the Prowler's theme, again, I'm just going to say this, voiced by the impeccable Mahershala Ali.
Yeah.
His theme is actually just Miles's theme played in reverse.
No way.
I'm probably gonna have to do that after this video. I'm gonna do it. But that is actually quite cool if that is the case. That is absolutely quite cool.
Because to me, it's when I found that out, it says to me that the Prowler is the path Miles could have gone down.
Oh, I definitely see that now. If he went down on a much darker path, like it's like two sides of the same coin and that.
Or maybe it's a path we will see later on down the list.
Oh, yes. And also, I just remembered as well, I know some people kind of gave it some critiques for its portrayal, but I actually didn't mind Kingpin in this movie. I thought he was actually pretty good, in my opinion.
Yes, voiced by the impeccable Live Schreiber.
I think the Kingpin was portrayed accurately in this movie. Going to the 1995 anime Spider-Man series, I saw no difference between that Kingpin and this Kingpin. Maybe this one was a lot more wider, but that just emphasizes this Kingpin had a lot of power.
Wider? Reese, have you noticed how incredibly thick this man is?
Man is a wall.
A menace to society, basically, with how thick he is.
Yeah, and we also got Dr. Olivia Octavius.
Oh yeah, she was actually alright as well. Not bad as well.
That's the first time I ever saw a gender bent Doc Ock.
And I loved that idea.
Yeah, I actually did get a kick out of that as well. Outside of the characters being well executed and well casted and voice acted and vice versa, you gotta admit, again, because of how amazing the animation is, the action sequences as well are just amazing in this movie. So amazing.
I don't know if it's something that we can talk about, but I love that on the DVD and Blu-ray release, we got a mini cartoon
Yes.
all dedicated to Spider-Ham.
Oh, yes.
Over.
Oh, yes. How did we forget about Spider-Ham, aka Peter Porker? He was a solid comedic highlight as well. He was really funny.
How did we miss that character?
Maybe in this situation, we didn't miss him. We saved him for best for last.
Here's
Yes.
another fact about the movie I know.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the most of the movie, Miles is animated on twos, so he holds one frame of animation for two.
Yeah.
Until he takes the leap of faith, he's animated on twos. When he finally takes that leap of faith, he's animated on ones.
Oh,
Which means every single frame, all 24 of them a second, is a completely new drawing.
that is a lot of dedication. Just shows how good the animation is at its best.
Yeah, that's I meant to say that scene where we see Miles take that step is probably the best part of that movie completely. Especially that iconic scene where he looks to that Spider-Man suit, and the first time he looks at it, it's not properly aligned, like he's not ready to fill in the suit. But the next time, during that scene where he looks at the suit, it fills in perfectly. I just love that little detail it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another little detail about that scene I love is that when he's jumping off the building, you see the glass flying where his hands were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Showing that he still had a little bit of hesitation.
And then he overcomes that in the end and becomes his own Spider-Man that we all know and love as well in the animated saga so far.
To quote a future movie, he's gonna do his own thing.
Yes. I mean, I know we're going far ahead, but it is included in the post-credit scene as well. It did tease us with Spider-Man 2099, voiced by Oscar Isaac, for a bit, and it does give us a very entertaining post-credit scene of him going back in time, I think, to like 60s Spider-Man, which I thought was just hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, it was hilarious. But anyway, all that being said, it deserves, I think, a lot of praise. It is absolutely amazing. Definitely is worthy of Maximum Spider. Now, back to live action with the MCU and a follow-up to Homecoming, and after the events of Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oh boy!
I must say, in the MCU timeline, I say it was a perfect place to put a new Spider-Man movie. So like the calm like the calm after the storm, actually.
Yeah, of Peter like coping and dealing with the personal loss of Tony Stark after when he sacrifices himself at the end of, again, Avengers Endgame.
Almost like a complete reverse to what happened when we first saw Spider-Man in the MCU. Like when we first saw him, he appeared in Civil War and then had his own movie, It Was Cocky. This time, however, he actually took part in a big battle, and then when he takes action in his own movie, he's a lot more mature, he understands the responsibility a lot more, which is a nice inverse for a sequel, which I can appreciate.
Oh, yeah, that is one thing that I can say is that the events that play out throughout Far From Home of like dealing with, again, the loss of Tony Stark and becoming a bit more responsible in a way, I thought was executed pretty well. However, I kind of have something that might be controversial. I think Far From Home, in a way, even though I do like it, it's the weakest of the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. Am I the only one?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
I mean, not to say that it's terrible. It's not bad, but I think it is the weakest out of the 3 Tom Holland films.
I see that because it's more like a first part of a double bill, just the first part of a double bill movie sesh, if that makes sense. On its own as a movie, it's not that bad. It is an entertaining movie. It does sell a lot for, again, its sequel, but if we ignore that, it does a lot of good things on its own, which I really did like with MJ finally appearing.
Played, of course, by Zendaya, who I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I honestly prefer this incarnation of Mary Jane over nearly every Mary Jane incarnation that we've ever seen.
Ooh.
Especially when
I can imagine those watching this video who love like the classic MJ, you know, the redheads and that. They're gonna be losing their shit at you, Reese.
I like this one. It's just, I don't know, a bit more intelligent. Like, she was very cautious around Peter to begin with. Like, I remember someone like slowed down the frames of this movie and caught when Mary Jane started putting the pieces together that Peter was Spider-Man.
Also, outside of MJ as well, I think Jake Gyllenhaal was also great as Mysterio, who I thought was a great highlight as well as the main villain.
I like the fact that you can look at him not as a dark mirror of Spider-Man this time, but as a dark mirror of Iron Man.
Yeah, he's basically like that in reverse in a way, on a much more darker path.
Sort of like the inverse of Spider-Man as well, because Peter again wants to keep on Iron Man's legacy and be a hero, while this guy wants to become the next Iron Man using his tech for his own reasons.
And also as well, since it is a huge spoiler as well, he did do something quite big that I don't know if anyone else in the movies has done so far. He exposed Spider-Man's identity at the end. Like, damn.
Almost making Peter drop the F-bomb.
Almost.
Oh, yeah.
Almost. And again, it did also give us the return of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson again at the end.
Oh my god. I'm pretty sure no one saw that coming. When that event happened in the cinema, I bet everyone dropped their jaws.
Yeah, when I saw him, I'm not gonna lie, I did have a huge smirk on my face, like my childhood J. Jonah Jameson was back again from the Raimi films. I mean, I know it's a different continuity, obviously, but you know, same actor in that. Again, I still stand by the fact that it's the weakest of the Tom Holland films, but I don't think it's terrible. It is still entertaining. It has a lot of good going for it. I think it sits comfortably in great power, great responsibility.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just realized what's next. Now, do any of you want to say the title for this next contender? Because I got some interesting opinions about it.
It's one of the movies of all time.
It's Venom 2. Let there be carnage.
I'm gonna say it right out the bat. It's awful. Awful. Look, it's awful because of one reason, right? And I don't care what people say. They butchered Carnage! This movie was the perfect opportunity to redeem the first film in a way by being actually rated R. Like, come on, admit it. Look at the source material of Cletus Cassidy and Carnage. You know for a fact that he does some pretty fucked up things in many iterations. And here, Sony just wusses out and does not give it the R rating that it deserves. Imagine how better it would be seeing Carnage going all out, just being brutal, bloody, and vice versa. The golden opportunity was there.
I hate that I agree with you so much.
Look, again, I know this movie has its fans, you know, and that's fine. But this one, again, I'll address some other issues I have. This movie takes so long in, like, getting to what we actually want to see with Venom vs. Carnage, because at points it is such a drag, if I'm going to be honest. It drags on for so long.
I do have to say, though, I do really like the Carnage design, though, and there is that one scene that I think shows him off perfectly, and that's that scene when they're in the church, the final fight where they're in the church.
Yeah.
And there's that shot of him in front of the stained glass window.
Yeah, I will say that was a neat moment. And again, I do like the design of Carnage. And again, Cletus Cassidy being played by Woody Harrelson, who was also teased at the end of the first Venom. You know, good actor in that. He could definitely play a psychotic role, you know, when it comes to, like, serial killers and all that. But again, it's just wasted here. Absolutely wasted.
The one thing I hate that they've altered about Carnage, and it's such a minor thing as well, it was just a one line, but it bugs me.
Go on.
And that happened in the final fight when Eddie pointed out that they're not in sync. Not Venom, Carnage isn't in sync. And I'm there thinking, wait, Carnage has been known to be far more in sync than Venom ever could be, because they don't say we, they say I, as in Cassidy's fully in control of the symbiote. So how on earth, so why do they think that was a good idea to get rid of that little detail on Carnage just so that Venom can kick his ass? Or am I the only one who's that annoyed on that little detail?
Yeah.
I did think it was a little goofy to start off with, but it made sense that of all the people, it would be Eddie and Venom to figure out that Carnage and Cassidy weren't in sync.
Yeah. I mean, let me say this right. Can you, at least like with the first Venom, have some fun with it in the right mindset? Probably. But again, what ruins it for me a lot is, again, I know I keep sounding like a broken record, but it wastes its potential by, again, playing it too safe, because this is Sony that we're talking about, and they could not be bothered to make this R-rated. Again, the opportunity was there, and they butchered Carnage so badly. Like, he's up there as another one of my favourite Spider-Man villains as well. He's up there. You know, like Venom, Green Goblin, he is up there, because if you know the source material of the comics and other iterations, again, Carnage is a force of nature, and they just ruined him.
The only thing really memorable about this movie is probably the after credit scenes, where they link this movie to the MCU for just one scene.
Just for one scene, and then when Venom looks at TV on the broadcast going on, he's like, I know that guy, with, you know, Tom Holland, and just licks the TV screen.
But how do you know that guy? That's my question.
Yeah. I'm losing brain cells the more I think about it. Look, can I at least have the honor, right, of putting this firstly into puts dirt in my eye? It's not good. Like, again, I can understand this movie having its fans. You could probably have a good time with it. No, some people have, and that's fine. But it just left me disappointed, because I wanted to like this so badly. I wanted to like it, but it just fumbles it completely.
Here's the thing, it also fumbled the bag as well, because it had Andy Serkis as a director.
Yes, as well. Like, that was another thing that interested me as well, because I like him a lot as an actor in that, because, you know, he was in Lord of the Rings as Gollum, as the motion capture actor and voice actor for Gollum and that, and other roles, and he was also in the MCU as well. You know, I like him as an actor, I really do, but I don't know. I don't think, I know I'm stumbling my words here, I don't think he could have saved this movie. He wasn't enough to save it. Again, only check it if you are that much of a huge fan of the first Venom movie. but I would say just give this one a skip. Now, can we cheer ourselves up now with our next contender that's going to brighten me up? Spider-Man No Way Home, and just like in my last video, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm putting it straight up in Maximum Spider. No questions asked.
And I do not disagree with it.
No one should disagree with you. This movie just ticks all the boxes that we want from an amazing Spider-Man movie. Heck, even a Spider-Verse movie if we want to go that far.
Yes, it also perfectly tackles the events of what happened after the events of Far From Home. It does, of course, do some multiverse shenanigans that the MCU is kind of notorious for, but I will say this in its defense. I think No Way Home does the whole multiverse trope really well. It does it really great. The other ones in the MCU and I'm iffy on because, again, it lessens the impact when you know that if a character dies, you can just like pull another version out of another multiverse and vice versa. But this one, I think it's one of those rare multiverse films that works for me. It just works. And also, it has everyone. It nearly has everyone. The Raimi films, the Andrew Garfield movies, and that in terms of Spider-Mans from those movies, the villains. It's just a great time all round.
Yeah.
And it was great that they got Willem Dafoe back as Green Goblin, who, again, steals the show in this one. Like, he is, like, the true antagonist in this movie as well. He was amazing. And I really liked what they did with Doc Ock as well, returning from Spider-Man 2. I really liked what they did with his character in terms of, like, redemption and vice versa. Like, he was nailed perfectly.
I also like that they made Electro an actual threat as well.
They redeemed Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2. And of course, they changed his design, obviously, but I think it's a much better design.
Definitely a better design. And it almost borrows elements from the classic suit as well, like with the star-shaped mask, which sometimes makes an appearance when he appears.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the little details I appreciate about this movie is that we get to learn what happens to our other two Spider-Men after their movie's completion. Like with Andrew Garfield no longer pulling his punches.
Yeah.
And same with Tobey Maguire as well. Like, I loved it how they got the Spider-Men that we all knew and loved from before back, and seeing all three of them like work together for the final battle and that, it was like 10 out of 10 stuff for me. It was 10 out of 10.
I do really like that we get that closure for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
Yeah, great closure, and the chemistry that they had as well with each other during the final act as well. Amazing stuff again. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but the chemistry between them three was really good.
This movie just does so much right.
So much right.
There's just no higher praise for it.
Yeah. And also, we can't forget as well, Doctor Strange is also in this one as well, and he has some pretty good highlights as well, especially with the whole multiverse shenanigans that happens, and especially during, like, the ending, spoiler, where, again, he has to make everyone, like, forget who Peter Parker was.
And I'm glad that in its movie sequel, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, he does reference this movie at the beginning, which shows that even the events of this movie had an effect on Doctor Strange, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I will quickly say Multiverse of Madness was alright, but again, No Way Home, I think, is the better multiverse movie. It's like the perfect multiverse movie. Potentially. But I just love it so much.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of the best ones. You know, it's amazing for a reason. Please put it on your watch list. It is the best of the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man films. Like, it is... It's just perfect. You know what? I'm just going to borrow a quote from a good friend of ours. It's just so good. Yes, I said it. Hawthorne?
Yes.
You know how you said that Venom Let There Be Carnage was one of the movies of all time?
I refuse to acknowledge this.
I'm going to have to do it for you.
Because it's morbing time?
Yes, it's Morbid time, everybody. It's Morbius, the grand cinematic masterpiece that is worthy of Maximum Spider!
This movie is just goddamn amazing! I can't believe they took from Power Rangers and made this movie a reality.
It is the definitive movie for why we go to the theatre, as they say. It works perfectly.
This movie is so great, they chose to release it twice!
And it failed the second time because of how everyone was memeing it galore. We gaslighted Sony into thinking that their absolute grand masterpiece was worth putting out in cinemas twice.
My favorite scene of this whole movie, I shit you not, is the one where Matt Smith is dancing like a jackass in his apartment.
Oh my god. And the music choice as well. It brought a tear to my eye. Like, it's such beautiful music. I always mishear the lyrics, and I think it is the lyrics, and I do not care. Where sometimes the singer of the song will say stuff like, have sex, or poop my pants. Like, truly a tearjerker moment.
And this movie is so amazing that it stole one of Spider-Man's villains and brought it to his own universe, the Vulture.
Oh no. And this is where we're gonna stop being nice, because that end credit scene makes no fucking sense. Why did they butcher the Vulture returning? Like, did he forget that he had a family in the MCU films? You know, before? Did he just forget about them?
No, he said in the after credits he's trying to go back to his universe, so he just recruited Morbius's help.
Yeah, just like, you want to team up, and that's like, oh god.
Yeah. And can I just ask, why the hell did they do all those Venom references? Like, what? Like, basically referencing the place where Venom movies take place, and then going as far as when Morbius was taking on the counterfeiters, calling himself Venom.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but just go, what, you gotta be kidding me.
And also, like with Venom, the action is so poorly shot and lit, and sometimes, again, you just cannot tell what the hell is going on.
Oh.
You can tell that we're not going to be nice anymore now, because we had to get the memes out of the way, guys, because, let's be real, this is puts dirt in my eye worthy. Like, it is that bad.
Seriously, I only watched this like a week ago, and I couldn't see any shining moments. I went into it, never saw it in the cinema, because I missed my opportunity to, probably for good reasons.
Yeah,
I went into it keeping my eye out for morbing time, because everyone's saying it's the best part of the movie. That gaslit me into keeping an eye out, paying attention to keep an eye out for it. So thank you, internet, for that experience.
You were gaslighted by the memes in thinking that its morbid time was real.
I only learned after the movie. The reason why that's a meme is because they asked for a catchphrase for the movie, and someone recommended it's morbid time.
Oh god. It's one of those movies where, again, you just say, what the hell were they thinking? Was like, come on, was anyone in high demand for Morbius to get his own movie? Really? Like, look, with Venom Let There Be Carnage, I could see the demand, because, you know, Venom, iconic. Carnage, iconic. Morbius? I mean, look,
anyone know who Morbius is?
exactly. I mean, he may have his fans, obviously, but I don't think he was worthy enough to have his own movie. Like, at all.
Whenever he makes an appearance in an anime series, they always change his character from either a guy who doesn't want to be a villain, he's just trying to fight his own cravings, to even a straight up bad guy doing what he pleases.
Yeah, I prefer the whole he's just a bad guy doing whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, it works a lot more better, I think. A lot more better.
So yeah, so is it me, or why is this guy trying so hard to be a good guy? for being portrayed as a bad guy?
I don't know. Like, Jared Leto as Dr. Morbuis himself, I think is possibly passable because the last time he was in a comic book movie, oh my god, he was terrible. Like, if you don't know what I'm referring to, years ago, back in 2016, I think, he played as his own version of the Joker in the Suicide Squad movie that came out at the time, and he was fucking terrible. He was terrible in that one. Like, specifically just Suicide Squad. Like, I'm showing the poster on screen now, not to be confused with the other one that came out that would be a lot more better from James Gunn, The Suicide Squad. So, yeah.
A movie that is just called Suicide Squad, not James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he was an awful Joker in that, and him popping over to Marvel, it's just kind of funny. Like, yes, he's a bit more better, he's more bearable, obviously, he's a lot more toned down in comparison to that iteration of Joker, because he's, like, so bad. Like, he was, like, I don't know, hamming it up and being, like, a ridiculous version of Jim Carrey at times, if you ever seen that movie. So, yeah. Morbius. I mean, it certainly is one of the movies of all time, and I'm glad in a way. I'm glad that we were there to see the memes that popped out at the time. It was an event, you know. It's shit, but it's weirdly kind of entertaining with what happened with this movie, right? It's entertaining. And the thing that annoys me as well, just to address the other movies that are yet to be released, or are released at the time of me making this video, is that Sony is still trying hard to make more Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man movies. You know, it makes no sense, you know?
Like with El Muerte.
Oh my god, who asked for El Muerte? I hope I pronounced his name right. He's basically, from what I've seen online, he looks like Bane from Wish. I'm sure someone made this comparison. Reese, you know who Bane is from Batman, right?
Yeah.
El Muerte is literally discount dollar store Bane. Like, who asked for this movie? Even Bane, right, from DC Comics would look at that guy and laugh his ass off. Like, are you a cheap imitation of me? You are a dollar store version of me. Get out of the ring, you know?
Yeah.
Or how about Madam Web?
Oh boy. Ooh.
Okay, depending. Okay. Look, depending on what time this video comes out, depending, you know, because depending on what time it comes out, because I lost my train of thought now. Let's just put an early prediction, because that's going and puts dirt in my eye. You know, I'm potentially putting Madam Web and puts dirt in my eye. I'm just popping an image on screen temporarily because, again, was anyone even expecting this to be good? No one expects it to be good.
For those people who say it's good, I love every minute of it.
Like, the only thing I know about the Madam Web movie, weirdly enough, for some weird reason because of the casting, is like, when they were casting for Madam Web, they were like, you know who we should cast to play as Madam Web? The actress who was in the 50 Shades of Grey movies. She would make a great Madam Web.
We know what this movie's gonna be then.
Garbage!
We know what's gonna happen. Bring out the whips.
Oh no. Oh god.
The Madam Web just annoys me.
Yeah. And then there's another one with Kraven the Hunter getting his own movie. However, I'm a bit less harsh on it because at least Sony kind of got the message that, okay, we'll make this R-rated, but I feel like at this point it's too little too late, if we're going to be honest. And I don't expect Kraven the Hunter to be good. I'll be surprised if it is, but I don't expect it to be good. Okay, you know what? Morbius, one of the movies that at least you might get some, of all time, you might get some meme-worthy entertainment out of it, but objectively, it is not good. It is not good. Okay, let's end off this video once and for all on a high note now. Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse.
It is damn good.
Yes, absolutely a great sequel. Like, Into the Spider-Verse walked so that this movie could run, if that makes sense, because I think it's better.
We also get to see more interdimensional spider people.
So many, like, cameos from, like, different comic books, TV shows, and movies, I think. And even, I think, at one point, Insomniac Spider-Man, you know, from the Spider-Man games recently, even has a cameo in this movie as well, which is pretty cool.
It
And
answers the question of where Miles' spider come from. That it was a
yeah, it
whole
does answer that question. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, can we just address an elephant in the room? Spider-Man 2099, aka Miguel O'Hara, is the GOAT in this movie.
Isaacs.
Oscar Isaac is the GOAT in this movie. And I think it's his best Marvel role, if I'm going to be honest. It's his best Marvel role.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's good.
Yeah, because
it's
his...
very
Yeah, it's really good, because I think his last two roles in live-action Marvel movies was that he was Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse. He was also Moon Knight for the Disney Plus shows for, you know, the Moon Knight series, and he's the voice of Miguel O'Hara, which I think it's his best role, in my opinion.
He finally got a break.
I mean, not to say that his past roles were bad, obviously, because in a way they were entertaining, but this one I think is his best one.
Yeah. And we get the two greatest alternate dimension spider people ever. Pavita Prabhakar and Hobie Brown.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
we're not going to mention Peter's baby?
Oh,
yes.
Mayday.
Mayday!
Hey, the highlight of the movie!
Yeah. And also, it spawned one of the most popular memes we've gotten from this franchise now, currently. It's a canon event. It's a canon event, boys. You can't change this, everybody. You can't change it. The memes that were spawned from this were just entertaining.
Oh yeah, and we also got the return of Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider.
Oh, yeah.
With the tattered blue hoodie.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But of course, the biggest highlight of this movie, I honestly have to go and say it's the ending. Just, no one saw it coming. This was going to be a part 1 of 2.
Yeah.
They hid that so well.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh, I just remembered now. I just remembered the Spot. He is great as a multiversal villain.
The only thing I got told about his identity in the whole movie was one of my friends telling me the bagel is important.
And boy, it was important as well in how he became the Spot. Like, come on. He was, like, in the past, right? He was kind of sort of like a joke character, but here, oh my god, the Spot is so good. And I'm going to say this as a nuclear hot take. Maybe it's because I've seen some of the later MCU movies, like when it comes to like multiverses and that. I'm going to say this as a nuclear hot take. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
You ready,
Yeah.
Hawthorne?
Yeah, I'm ready.
The Spot is the better multiversal villain than Kang the Conqueror.
Oh!
I do agree with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
Look, Kang the Conqueror, you know, he was okay in Quantumania and stuff like that, but, you know, he just kind of got wasted, and I just couldn't take him seriously, especially when he got beaten by Ant-Man, a lower-tier Avengers character. Like, look, they can turn him around, obviously, because they'll have to, like... Oh, I'm thinking way too ahead of myself, because I think they may have to recast him because of some drama that happened with the actor, Jonathan Majors, so, yeah. But, yeah, the Spot is way better than Kang the Conqueror. You know, MCU Kang, obviously, I think, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm saying it. I do not care what people think.
And I love the Spot's whole motivation for nearly destroying the multiverse is spite.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is fueled by spite.
Yes.
And I love it.
Yeah. Absolute spite. Now,
You don't have... See, kids? You don't have to have a big world-ending origin story. Just a little bit of spice enough.
and also throw a bagel in while you're at it.
But the thing is, does it have to be an everything bagel?
Wait, man, cover all our bases. Just get the everything bagel.
Yeah, just get everything. Again, it continues that great momentum that Into the Spider-Verse has, you know. It just clicks well. Great action, you know, great characters, great story moments, you know. I think, again, it is a step up from the last movie, personally. And I'm obviously putting it in, like, Maximum Spider, just to end off the video. You know, Maximum Spider. I'm hoping that when the last one comes out in the future, that it knocks it out the park. I can't wait for the third one.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I just can't wait for it. I hope, I hope it knocks it out the park, especially with how, again, this movie ends and that, Miles returning and that, and vice versa.
Something else I liked in the movie is that Penny did show back up, and she had her actual spider suit as well. She actually had the spider.
Yeah. And of course, going through her own canon event as well.
Bitch looks like Shinji!
I mean, she's literally in the robot. It makes sense for that comparison. Penny, get in the robot with Shinji from Neon Genesis Evangelion.
I feel sorry for her. That just means she's going to be getting a whole lot of depression in her future.
Yeah, again, anyone watching this video that has heard or seen Neon Genesis Evangelion, you'll understand why. If you don't, what are you doing? It's a classic anime. I know I'm throwing it in there. I'm shilling for Neon Genesis, I know, at the end, but by God, it's so good.
If you want to know more, go check out RT Julius's 5 depressing anime videos. He goes in depth about Neon Genesis Evangelion in it.
Yeah, I'll include a link for the top 5 depressing anime list. I will include that link. But still, Across the Spiderverse, excellent animated offering again. And it was personally one of my favourite animated movies of 2023. That's how good it was. I mean, I think,
do agree with that.
Yeah, it might have had some competition out there, and I think someone watching this video could probably bring up another anime movie that came out that could be better than this in the exact same year. But again, I haven't seen any of them, so again, do keep that in mind. Although I do think it is funny, right, how this movie alone, right, was far better than anything that Disney pumped out of last year. Far better than them. Because what did you have with Disney in 2023? Elemental? Wish? Get out of here. That's what I say. Get out. Across the Spiderverse is the goated animated movie of 2023. It was that good. I just love it. And that concludes our tier list. I hope you guys watching had a lot of fun joining us just ramble about these movies. How do you guys feel?
I feel good.
I had a lot of fun making this list with you guys, and I have to agree with every one we've placed.
Yes, absolutely. Again, for those watching, how would you rank these movies? Do you think some of them are better than others? Do you think some are worse than others? Let us know in the comment section down below. This is IronZaku signing out. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See yous.